Hello and welcome back to Red Devils Talk. My name is Haider and I'm your host as ever today. I'm joined by my usual co-hosts, Pauly, Marc, Ciaran and Joe. How are we all feeling today?
Crap.
Mark's feeling great.
I've had a wonderful day today. It's my missus' 30th. I've had the privilege of not watching the football, so I'm not feeling as bad as everyone else. So yeah, sorry about that.
What do we have to say for it, guys? I mean, guys, thank you to all the listeners that are here at the moment. Please hit the like button, hit the subscribe button, get involved, please. We really want to hear your thoughts because, we're struggling as well to put it into words what we've seen. It's really disappointing. I'll start with you, Joe. What can we say? And are things just, I expect us to at least put in a decent performance, and that's just not something we're seeing at the moment, unfortunately. And when you're losing as well, it just makes it more difficult, doesn't it?
Yeah, it's a tough one because I don't know. This might not be a popular opinion, but I don't think it was the worst performance we've seen. Well, going forward anyway, and in possession at time, I thought we started the game quite well, but again, it's just alarming when we don't play certain players, just how easy it is to attack us and just how open we are. I mean, obviously, that first goal. I don't think I've seen a lot of football. I don't think I've ever seen anything like that before. I can understand you might think it's Demba Ba, he's 34 years. The only thing I will say is that some people are saying, well, who's at fault there? For me, usually when it's a corner, it's the fullback who's on the opposite side to the corner. So in this case, I think the corner was on the right-hand side, our right-hand side. So, obviously, I think Shaw should have been back. I don't really know where Shaw was there, to be fair. Wan-Bissaka was advanced because they did a short corner routine, so that's fine. I understand that. But normally it's the fullbacks that stay back on corners. You can't blame the two centre-backs for being in the box. How many times do you see it, a short corner, the ball doesn't come in the box and the centre-backs are left stranded? But I just don't know what's happened there to allow Demba Ba to be left. And even at his age, with his knees, he's going to get through. But, then I thought, United, obviously, they looked like they could create something. They looked like they were, passing it around neatly, but without substance. And then the second half, it's just all possession, but literally going nowhere with it. We didn't look like we'd break them down if we played till Christmas. I think the goalkeeper only had one save to make in the whole of the second half. And that was a free kick, a tame one at that from Fernandes. And that was the biggest problem for me in the second half, in the whole game, really, just how little we tested their keeper. Because I don't think they're a great side, to be honest. I think they're a Europa League level side at best. They defended well today. I'll give them credit for that. But they literally just picked United off twice. It was too easy.
Yeah, I completely agree with you, especially on the goal. I do say that normally it would be the opposite fullback, but it's hard not to a fault for that because really that's ridiculous what happened. That should never happen in a professional game of football where literally a striker has about 30 to 35 yards by himself. It's ridiculous. If you're going to have your fullbacks up and you're going to have your two centre halves up, you need to have someone more than just Matic that's close, even relatively close to the halfway line. For me, it showed a complete disorganization. I think it showed that the team wasn't prepared for situations like that. They probably thought that they could just show up and win the game because they have a game against Everton on the Saturday morning. And really, it kind of has to question just how prepared were the team going into the game. Were they preparing for that game, or were they just this week and they have to prepare more for Everton? I don't know, but for me it was bad. You see a lot of people on Twitter talking about it have the team started to tune out the manager and the way they played. You have to kind of say maybe, because the way that they performed was not the way you should expect a team to perform in the Champions League. And that's a big, big issue for me. Both goals were terrible. The defensive work rate was awful for both the first and second goal. First one, it was everybody. I don't think you can just blame one player. The second goal was crazy. I saw some people kind of not blaming about 2 or 3 of those defenders, but I'm sorry if the winger or wing back scores on the right-hand side and Luke Shaw is just barely into the United half, there's a problem there, because that means he didn't sense the danger. You can look on Twitter, there's a still of where the ball is given away. And we weren't that far away from the player that actually scored. But there was 2 or 3 of those players. I think there was Bruno, Luke Shaw. I don't think it was Matic as well. But the guy who scored got about 20 yards in them when he scored the goal. So that just shows me you didn't work hard enough to get back. It goes back to last week where there was a lot of people really criticizing Upamecano, who lost the ball when he came back and he was kind of jogging on the way back. The same thing happened tonight for our second goal.
A bit of a shocker tonight also.
Mm-hmm. But what I'm saying is people really need to start, you have to start calling out some of this, where is it individuals or is it that they've tuned out the manager and don't want to work hard enough for him? If that's the case, Ollie's days are numbered for United.
Yeah.
That's
Sorry. Go on, Pauly, you first. But
that's the thing that doesn't make sense to me, because what was the catalyst for tuning out the manager? A 5-0 win over Leipzig? Like you beat PSG, and then the performance against Chelsea left something to be desired, but then you go and thump Leipzig, and the reaction is, no, the manager doesn't know what he's doing. So that's what doesn't. That's why I don't get that notion. I'm not saying it's not true. I am just saying I don't understand how that can be how is that the catalyst for the players?
The work rate that the players have put in.
I understand. I understand, and I'm not saying you're wrong. I'm just saying, to me, like I don't get how that might, how does. Yeah. I don't get the psyche of players if that's the way they're going to react to a 5-0 win. Be like, that's it, we're done with the manager. We've lost faith in him. And like Joe said, like I actually first 12 minutes of this game before the goal, I thought they looked like United again, and you saw what United were. You saw patterns there. Like it was like, Bruno gets ball here. Rashford makes this run. Bruno plays ball to Rashford. Rashford tries to get ball now to Martial, and he takes his pass first touch, and it's just off. Like it was just poor play from everybody. There was a situation in the first half where Istanbul had a free kick. We dealt with it. The ball comes to Matic. Van de Beek is pointing, look out to the left. Rashford's breaking. And you have Rashford out on the left. You have Shaw out on the left. And Matic just plays the ball, and it just goes smack in between the two of them. And there's a moment of hesitation from both. And then it, because of that hesitation, Rashford then goes, all right, I'll come back and get it. But Rashford coming back and get it, that just kills your break. Now you're back to your slow, methodical buildup. So, everything was just off. And then those goals happen. Those goals are just, Joe said, like, Wan-Bissaka's forward because they're doing a short corner. Like, I'm sorry, no, but like they're doing a short corner between Bruno and Mata. So like Wan-Bissaka can't be getting that forward.
Pauly, it's crazy though, isn't it? Because as Paul Scholes, this under 10 stuff, you never put your slowest player back.
Right. And now I think there might be a little bit of a discourse here, because usually Lindelof doesn't go back. So now you have Tuanzebe in there. You say he's an aerial threat, so he goes forward. Someone else has to be back. Like, and somewhere along the line, nobody on the pitch, no one on the pitch said, "Hey, someone else has to get back." When Wan-Bissaka does get sucked in, neither Bruno nor Mata goes, "Whoa, well, our right back is one of the 3 guys who's supposed to be back, and he's now forward, so let me get back." But at the end of the day, that comes to Solskjaer in the dressing room before the game says, right, on a corner kick, if Axel goes forward, then who's it gonna? Is it gonna be Bruno? Is it gonna be Van de Beek? Is it somebody has to be back, and that's on the boss to say, if Tuanzebe goes forward, you're the one that comes back. And Wan-Bissaka getting forward and Mata and Bruno not improvising and realizing they needed to cover him is one thing, but the fact that we don't even have like And it's a smart play by Demba Ba. Like, hey, they have 10 guys forward. Let me just run to the halfway line and just get behind them. That's a smart, like, somehow no one saw this and no one's screaming. And I think this is one of the problems is when you look at the players that Solskjaer has wanted to bring in and how he has said, I want to do these background checks on them and personality tests. And you look at the way he's spoken about the players when he came in, that they didn't have the right attitude. And we make so much of a big deal over the last 2 weeks, like about McTominay being this big time cheerleader on the pitch. And he's always yelling at the players and everything. And Bruno Fernandes has that. Harry Maguire has the players that Solskjaer's bringing in seem to have that. The players he inherited don't. And if that's the case, maybe that's why he keeps turning to McTominay. Like, we need some effort and guile on the pitch. But the problem is McTominay lacks, football ability. So if you have to bring on a player just because you need that emphasis, that emotion, you're playing a man short, and it makes life so much harder for everything. Like, and I think that's why he went to McTominay over Fred or Lindelof in the second half. But it's just going to make your life more difficult, and I don't know where you go from here.
It might not be emotion. It might be just he's one of the players that's better for the organization of the team. I don't know. For me, I feel like we have a team. It's very similar to what Roy Keane says, that are devoid of actual captain type players. We can say Bruno is, but he's by example. We've mentioned enough about Maguire. I'm not going to say anything there. I feel like our team is full of kind of mental midgets where when something doesn't work right,
go down.
They can't do it, or something happens that doesn't work perfectly to the plan that Solskjaer has put out, that they can't then counter react to that. And that's one of the biggest issues I think we have at the club.
I don't think I think you're absolutely right. I don't think we have enough leadership there. We saw that against Tottenham. We seem to, I think it was very different last season. We were on a bit of a run. We had that can-do attitude. We had that attitude of, being able to come back in games. But I think that that's definitely lacking this year. Now, listen, I'm not going to sit and jump on the players. I have said to you guys in the last few days that I am getting, my patience is wearing very thin with Ollie. Now, we have seen it before where under Mourinho there was an awful atmosphere, and I think you could very much see that the players had given up. But I don't believe that to be the case. I do believe that they see more in Ollie. He's managed to get some players in that believe in the system and have a different mentality. And I'm not going to sit there and blame the players. I am going to sit there tonight and blame Ole. I think we've seen on several occasions now. I want him to succeed. I want to see nothing more than for him to do incredibly well. But I feel that he's making, not so much tonight maybe, but he's made a lot of mistakes recently, and I feel that the tactics and the players' mentality are rubbed off from what Ole is putting across to them and saying to them before games and stuff, and it's really disappointing. We've spoken about this recently, that we really need to build up a run of momentum, and we're not doing that at the moment. We are, as Haider has said beautifully a few times, we are consistently inconsistent, and it's just shown that tonight. I mean, as I said, I didn't watch much of the game, but 2 defensive errors. We didn't look like, again, we've had this for the last few weeks now. We could talk hugely and positively about all the strikers and the creativity and everyone last year, but that we've not seen that. I'm pleased that Martial got a goal today, but there's just so much missing going forward, and you've got to start from the back. There's a lot of defensive frailties. There seems to be a lack of creativity in moving forward in the middle of the park. And then when you get onto the end, of the final third, you have got players that don't seem to be able to sort of make anything from it. It's everybody is a team. When I saw that team sheet tonight, and we all said this in the chat, we were incredibly. I mean, Mata would be the only questionable one.
It was a good team sheet. No one really complained about that. But and this thing. Yeah,
go
go
on,
mate.
No, you go on.
No, I'm just going to say, look, this is not about sitting here. I'm saying for me personally, because I know people here do know my views on the manager. I think a couple of weeks ago, I was one who just thought there needs to be a change. It's not me wanting someone else because I don't like Ollie. I love Ollie so much. You know, and I said, and Ciaran was on me with me on the podcast today, weren't you, Ciaran? No, I do. I love him. But as I said, you know what he's done really well behind the scenes. But at the end of the day, you've got to get the team out. You're the manager of Manchester United. Your first primary job is to go out there, get results, get the team playing. I'm not expecting us to challenge for a title. I'm not expecting us to be the best team in the land. I'm expecting to see us playing good football. I'm expecting to see us be more cohesive. My problem with all of this is that people saying give him time. One, you're not going to get time. Okay, that's just the reality of the game. That's just the way it is. And the second thing for me is that we talk about, you know, the tactics, and the tactics are there, but I'm struggling to see at times what our best starting 11 is. I like the flexibility we have, but then also we don't know our starting 11. Now, I said, and we all said in the group chat, I was delighted with that first 11. I really was. And I'm not, this is not you know, a negativity on Ollie, but you know, a manager would be able to put that team out there and beat a team like Basaksehir. There's just no, Ollie could have done that last season, but he's not doing it right now. And I don't blame the team sheet, and I don't blame just the players. And this is the thing, I blame the players for the lack of lapses of concentration. What I don't like is when people are on either side. So you see people saying, oh, it's not the manager, it's all on the players, and then vice versa. It's a bit of both. The organizational shape is not just on Ollie, it's the players as well. It's decision making. These are professional players. Harry Maguire is the captain of Man United. He is not leading the team at the moment. He's just simply not doing it. And at the end of the day, if your captain, who's meant to be the embodiment of your management, and you on the pitch is not doing that, you've got a serious problem at the club.
That's where
sack him tomorrow.
That's where I'm at here. I'm so conflicted at the moment with where I am with this team, because it's like that first goal sort of absolutely I can't say the word, encapsulates how I feel about, you know, the team at the moment in terms of, you know, you see that goal, the way it goes in, is that the manager or is that the player? And that's a perfect goal. I mean, yes, you know, the manager sets the team up, but I cannot think that Ollie's not told someone, you've got to be back there. You know, I'd like to think that no manager in the world would make that mistake at this level, but he could have done. But then I'm thinking, well, if that is the case, that's got to be ringing alarm bells with the players, and you've got to have somebody who's on the pitch there that's saying, look, this is just not right. And the other thing about that corner, when I look at it again, the ball is, you know, there's 2 or 3 opportunities to put that ball in the box. It doesn't go in. So after it's not gone in after a couple of times, I think that's when Tuanzebe or Maguire's got to start making a move back.
That's exactly it. It took them way too long to even try to do that.
Yeah, and that's where I think it's on the players a bit more. But I mean, obviously, there's something not right with that setup there, and I mean that just cannot happen at this level, like we said. But I just wanted to say as well, I mean, I was really impressed with that team sheet. I was excited when I saw that team. You know, you've seen the group chat here. Often, usually when the team comes out, we'll be like, why is he playing? Or I'm not sure about this team. I think that's probably the first team sheet we've looked at and be like, I really like the way we're set up today.
Delighted. But I had no complaints. Ollie put out a good team.
Yeah.
The issue is though, guys, is that, and this is the thing, you can't blame the team selection. Like, you can say you can't. I don't think you can blame the players. I mean, me and Umka disagree quite a lot about this. He's saying we've had bad games, not acceptable, bad management, and worst player performances. Change in management, would that change that? I don't think so, but let's give it a shot. I've got to say that's I just don't agree with that. Think about it, if you're in a business and your manager is not performing, and then that trickles down to the rest of the team. That 6-1 against Spurs, I'll bring you in, Mark, and then we'll bring the others in. But that 6-1 against United has just completely rocked Ollie. It's rocked the players. He's gone, and rightly so. He's right. My defense is leaky. I need to fix it. And his automatic decision, and that's what a manager will do usually, is go more defensive, go more pragmatic. But I don't think he knows. I don't think he trusts the team enough now to go forward. And when you don't have that trust anymore, the relationship's gone. And that's what I'm thinking. I don't think the players are down tools. I don't think the players have turned around and thrown Ollie on the bus. I don't think they're not playing for him, by the way. I don't think so. I think they're happy. I think the morale is good in the squad. But I do think that there's a disconnect. I don't think they trust him to take them to the next level anymore. And unfortunately, I think what we're going to see now is probably the inevitable. I mean, I'll bring you in, Mark. What are your thoughts on that?
Yeah, I don't think we can see the best of both worlds. I think you're absolutely right. You know, when he's in a leaky defence, he's only going to naturally go back to a defensive formation. But with that, you downscale any attacking prowess that you might have. So it's a very tricky one for him. And as I said earlier, I really struggle with this because I really want to believe in him. I want him to be successful, and I've said this for many months. But I'm really struggling to see what else we can do now. I still don't, as I said, I still don't think that the players don't have trust in him. I think they do, but I think that he's trying to play it safe, but it's backfiring for him. He's trying to play safe, trying to not concede goals, and it's not working out well for him. But I don't know. I don't know whether bringing in a new manager is going to be the right thing. I know there's been lots of discussions about Mauricio, and you know, I still firmly believe that if things, you know, if the Glazers are still in charge and Ed's still in charge, I think that primarily we're going to have a problem.
Where I disagree, though, because yeah, you can say the Glazers, if they're in charge, you won't win the title. Yeah, I can say that. But to say we're sitting in 15th, this is not just 1 or 2 games, and people are saying 1 or 2. It's not. This is all season. This is from the back end of last season to now. I'm not saying go and sack him tomorrow. I'm saying serious questions should be asked. And this is the thing, Ciaran, I'll bring you in. I know Pauly's going to disagree with me on that, but you have to ask the questions. It's not about being not giving time. You've got to ask the questions. We're Manchester United Football Club. We shouldn't be going to Istanbul Basaksehir and losing like that. We shouldn't be getting beat 6-1. We shouldn't be playing pragmatic at home. We've got better players to do that. I'll bring you in, Ciaran, on this.
Yeah, it's worrying because, and I don't know if I'm the only one that's had this thought before, but when I saw the way that this season has gone, I think back to last season before Bruno came in and what way we had to play. And we had to play more pragmatic and catch teams on the counter attack, and it made it much harder for us to kind of beat some of even the smaller teams. And it makes me wonder, is that kind of the limit that Solskjaer can do to kind of protect the defense? Because look, we have to think about this. After the lockdown, realistically, how many good teams did we play? Like really good teams did we play? It's not so much that I don't believe in Ollie, but it went through my mind is there this limitation that we can't get the balance right with this team to be able to have that potent attack but also be sturdy enough defensively? That went through my head. I don't know if that's true or not. It's just something that I thought about today. You know yourself, Haider, we've had enough podcasts where I've been supportive of Ole Gunnar Solskjaer. I've always wanted him to do well. I've always said that at United, he always had the club at his kind of best interest, and he wasn't just thinking about himself like we've had with other managers. You think of Mourinho when he wanted Martial gone to bring in Willian. And it's probably the first manager since Ferguson to come in that actually you can see is trying to put the club first before his own career. And that's really good. And I can see he's done so many good things. And we mentioned it on the podcast today, which will be out.
Yeah, the off the field stuff with the academy is phenomenal, and he deserves all the praise. And he stopped the rot.
Yeah.
Like I tweeted the other day, he stopped the rot, and he deserves so much credit. And he's a success in my eyes.
Yeah.
If he left tomorrow, it's a success.
Yeah.
That's how
It's
I love
great.
him to bits as a player, but I just don't think he's a good enough manager.
Yeah, and even what he's done to kind of even knock it into Ed Woodward's head that he's not supposed to be in control of transfer business is another positive that I take from it. But then I think back on Manchester United, I'm like, you know what? They need to be a bit more ruthless with some of the decisions they make. That's what we used to do. We used to make, not in terms of the manager, but maybe in terms of players. Because look, you were never going to be changing Sir Alex Ferguson. He was who he was. But I think since David Gill and Ferguson has left, we haven't seen that many ruthless decisions being made at the club. And I think that needs to start happening. That doesn't mean I think Solskjaer just needs to go. I think the biggest thing that they need to see, if there's an option out there where you truly believe is the manager you want to bring forward going for the next 5 to 10 years, then you need to make that decision. If it's not Pochettino and that manager is currently at a different club, okay, well then fine, leave it with Solskjaer now. But if it is Pochettino or if it is Allegri and they're available and you have the opportunity to bring them in, and you don't think Solskjaer is the manager, like we've heard those rumors from Ed Woodward, there's no point in hanging on to it, because you basically have made your decision already. It's that same thing as if you've thought of replacing someone, but you haven't done it yet. If you've thought of it, you've basically done it. And that's what I think is, it's a big issue. Like I said, I like Solskjaer. I like some of the stuff he's done. But if this continues, I can't see Ed Woodward doing anything else but replacing him. I don't trust in Ed Woodward, but if the results don't get any better, we may be put into a position where there's no other choice.
Ciaran, what Ciaran just said is right, and it's basically spot on, and I agree wholeheartedly with all of it, and I agree that we have to be more ruthless with decisions, but it's a different world that we're living in. It's harder to do that now. You can't, like we basically told Andreas Pereira, you're not good enough to be here, but nobody wanted it. So if teams don't want a player, there's only so much you can do. You could buy out their contract, but we're in a financial pickle, and buying out their contract isn't necessarily going to give us any more freedom to do so. All you could really do is what we've done to Phil Jones. We've left you off the squad, and now it's going to be at a certain point you're going to leave, or he's still just going to be here taking up wages. But that's basically what I've said. And Haider, I don't know why you think I'm going to disagree with you, because I don't. I've long
it's what we usually do, Pauly. We agree on a lot of stuff, but I think fundamentally sometimes we do disagree. But go on, mate.
When you said there are questions to be asked, like there are, and I've been saying this, I've been saying that one of the biggest reasons that I supported Ollie, and I supported him when he got the job, and when he got the job, I always said I like the idea of Solskjaer more than I like Solskjaer, and it's because of all those off the pitch things that he has done. And my fear in terms of is just exactly like what with Ciaran is, I don't trust Ed Woodward to get the next one right, because he hasn't gotten it right yet. And I don't trust Ed Woodward to I have a feeling that if we make a move now and we're not looking out for and we bring in somebody who isn't looking out for the long-term success of the club, we could just be in this, continue this cycle of every 2 years having to sack a manager and starting again. And I've said this, is that the best reason to keep Solskjaer in place? No, it's not. You shouldn't be keeping a coach in place because of those things. But right now that might be what you have to do. But I've been saying, and I started saying this after the Tottenham game, and I started saying this in the first month of the season, there were legitimate questions to ask of Solskjaer. And it's not, oh, you don't have tactics, or he's a PE teacher and he's out of his depth. It's there are legitimate questions. There have been things that I've seen from him that, I see that and I go, okay, that's wrong. You made a mistake here. That's fine, because it's the first time you did it. Are you going to learn from your mistake? And the biggest problem this year that I'm having is he's making the same mistake again and again. And today I put on the players and I put it on Solskjaer. I put them on both because it was individual mistakes and there were players that weren't playing. But Ollie, what are you doing? His substitutions today made no sense whatsoever.
Van der Beek was okay. Let's just look statistically on who scored. He was
third. Even the statistics though, because his statistics look really good. But what were we doing with all that possession? This is part of the thing. It's true. Is last week, and here's the thing: is last week. Leipzig, we beat Leipzig. When we signed on, all four of you guys were like, Pauly, why don't you smile a bit? We just had a 5-0 win. And after the PSG thing, I said the same thing. I was waving flags. I was saying the great win, but this wasn't perfect. And we got away with one. And if we play, and this is why the data analytics community exists and people are spending money, because they will tell you that's a great win. But if you play like that again and again and again, more often than not, you're not going to win. And against PSG, I said we struggled to create, and we got we got a chance and we finished it. But what if we don't finish it?
What I will say,
game after game, we're not creating any chances. So
what I will say to you quickly, Pauly, to agree with you. Actually, you turned around on the show and said I wasn't that impressed with PSG, wasn't that impressed with Leipzig. So I'll give you your dues on that, mate. You were spot on that, because
that's a legitimate question now. Is why aren't we creating anything? What's going on here? And we know we went more pragmatic and we had to, but then we put Donny van de Beek in the team today. So we dropped a defensive midfielder for a more attacking minded midfielder, and we didn't get anything. And Martial, as good as he was against PSG and Leipzig, he had the same problem this week that him, Rashford, Greenwood had in the last few games. They just seem too eager to go backwards. So like when your midfield and defenders are finally working the ball up, and they get it to you. And it seems like he forgot how to play the false nine role. Like the purpose when you drop deep to get the ball isn't to pass it right back to your midfielders. It's so that someone runs into the space behind you. But I understand Rashford and Greenwood struggle to turn on the ball. Martial's really good at it. He didn't do that tonight. And so now Matic finally gets the ball and he passes it up to Martial. But if Martial on the first touch gives it back to Matic, like what does that do? So yeah, we retain possession, but this was the popular phrase during the Van Gaal era. Like possession means nothing if you don't do anything with it. And that's, somewhere along the line, like at a certain point, the players have to be like, you know what? I'm going to try to take on this defender. And if I lose the ball, I lose the ball. And at the beginning of the season last year, Solskjaer said, like, if you lose the ball up the field, that's fine because we can go win it back. For some reason, they all seem scared to do that. Maybe it's because they are being too pragmatic. I got to protect the defense. I don't know what it is.
It's a Spurs game,
yeah,
Pauly. It's a Spurs game.
But there are legit, like you are right. There are legitimate questions to ask right now. But what Ciaran said is right. Do we trust the structure in place if we make a change? And what Mark said is right. Like, will making a change really help? And I'm not sure that the answer to that is yes.
So my view on that, you make some fantastic points. I agree with both the things. Some of the stuff that you said, some of the stuff that Ciaran says. I mean, MP Trequartista, unbalanced midfield, don't know who to start. I actually said this on the podcast I just did earlier with Rob. That I said that I don't think anyone knows what the midfield combination is right now, and that's a big problem. That's how you control a game. It feels like there's a lot of pigeonholing.
Pogba comes out and plays great against Leipzig, and then 3 days later, he just doesn't seem to have the energy, and it's a problem that Matic has started 5 games this year and has looked completely off of it.
He completely looks off the pace.
Yeah, I don't blame you for not knowing because is it Solskjaer that's telling Pogba like, oh, you could take it easier today, is he just being So yeah, how are you supposed to know what your best midfield is?
I mean, moving that on to you, Mark. I mean, my thing on this whole thing is that if Pochettino wasn't available, I wouldn't be saying, maybe we should make the change. But I think at the moment, when you see everything lining up, you have to look at that option because we you give Ollie the sort of the period after the Spurs game to turn it around, right? And while we had 2 good victories in the Champions League, your league form is your bread and butter. You have to perform in the league. I don't care what anyone says. You have to win your league games. You have to win your home games. It doesn't matter if you're playing Spurs or you're playing Burnley. You have to win your games. We're Man United Football Club. There's a lot of talent in this squad. We just talk about that midfield as well. I mean, Ollie's job is to find combinations, is to put out the team that works out there. And he found something that worked against PSG. Tellez got injured. That scrapped it a little bit. But, when he starts struggling to find a solution, then you have to have those questions and say, well, if he can't do it, someone else has to come in and do it. And that's fair. That's the way life works. This is not about disliking Ollie and liking Poch more. I want to see United do well. He's done fantastically well off the pitch. We had a fantastic run. He's got us back into Champions League. All that good work could be undone literally in the space of 3 months this season. And that's a worry for me.
Yeah, me too. I think we've got to be careful not to contradict ourselves because, last season we were very concerned that he hadn't found his best 11. There was no consistency. And then obviously after the project restart, he found that. So now we're saying that, he does, he can't play that every week because we're getting found out and this, that, and the other. So you do have to have a different tactical plan. So we've got to be very careful. I feel like he's unfortunately shot himself in the foot from the very beginning. He was never going to be, or was never deemed to be, the go-to man to replace Mourinho full time. It was only because he came in and had an excellent run. Now you've got to remember when Mourinho was in, things were awful, things were negative, there was so much unrest. So naturally, when he came in and he knew what the club was about, he knew what it was like when Fergie was there, he was able to bring in that breath of fresh air and really sort of gee everybody up and get them happy again. So that was great. And that's what we lived off for.
Mark, the thing is that I completely agree with you. My thing has always been he's taking you from A to B. A was stopping the rot. B was getting us where we are now.
Yeah.
I don't think he can take us from B to C, and we're seeing that a little bit now. That doesn't mean he can't win us big games. That doesn't mean he can't do great things, go on a great run. But we're so inconsistent. This is not an issue that we're just seeing now. His whole reign has been incredible run, get the job, then awful form, then incredible run again, and then awful form. Like, as Ciaran always says, the best teams are consistent. Liverpool are playing really awful right now. They're winning, and that's what you got to look at.
Yeah, the best teams will always grind out a result, and that's exactly, it wasn't about Fergie time at all. It was about grinding out a result because we were the best team in the league, and that's something that Ollie can't do. We were 2-0 down. We looked like we might have got back into it, but we saw it at the tail end of last season. We were able to actually come back and get last graph winners or draws, whatever, and it was something to be able to get excited about. But that seems to be lost now. I think that you're absolutely right. When that midfield, McTominay, Fred, everybody that even are deemed surplus to requirements, it's a wonderful array of players to be able to choose from. But he should know his best 3 or 4 every time. You should know, and it's a bit like Pauly mentioned the other day that he moved Fred out of the defensive midfielder role and put Scott McTominay there against Arsenal, and it completely messed up the system, and they ran around like headless chickens. And 2 years into the job now, you have to know, even if it's fresh, even if it's a new team, new players, you should know exactly why you're bringing in those players, and you should know where you're going to be playing those players, who's going to be starting every week, and have a bit of consistency. Again, the best teams, Liverpool, they didn't get many injuries. They had a very consistent 11. They were regular players together, and that's why they managed to grind out results and get wins, know who to give it to, this, that, and the other. And we don't have that at the moment. We're really, really lacking that. And as I said, I've not ever been Ollie out, and I really am starting to lose.
It's a big
patience.
change for you, Mark.
It is, honestly.
It's a big change.
Yeah, and I do feel emotional about it, because I really don't want. When he got the job permanently, I thought, oh Christ, this is a bit risky, but it is what it is. He's done wonderful, and hopefully that can continue. And unfortunately, it hasn't. And it's always, I always lambast Chelsea for getting rid of people and firing too quickly, and they probably might do that with Lampard. And I think it's a crying shame, because it's one of your best and greatest ever players that you're putting in charge, and could potentially lose a job, and then fans may turn on you and this sort of thing, and it's horrible to see. But
it's football, mate. Results.
Yeah, absolutely right. Fundamentally, it is football. It is about results, and you're absolutely right. He's taken us from A to B. He's got rid of the rot. He's taken all the crap out. He's got rid of a lot of deadwood, and he's changed the system with regards to recruitment policy, and that's wonderful. And he will, if he was to duck out now, if the people that know their stuff will be able to always say, well done, thank you for doing that, you will always be held in high regard. Exactly. And I do believe, I'll talk about that later. Yeah, that's me.
Go on, Joe.
What? Sorry, on the manager or what?
Just what are your thoughts, mate? Just this is all it is today. We haven't got anything, guys. Get your comments in as well. We'll bring them up as well. But we're just going to talk just from the heart today. There's no agenda. We're just and make sure we're not being reactionary. We're just talking what we think.
It's Ollie out.
No, your agenda is it's all the players, but not Ollie. Anyway,
I'm sorry. Did you hear me 10 minutes ago?
Go on, Joe.
I said on the happy hour with Pauly, which was on yesterday, guys. You haven't had a chance to watch it yet. We're doing another one tomorrow.
Oh,
as well.
Shameless.
Do get involved. Yeah,
I was about to plug it too.
We've got to do a bit of promo, mate. You seem to be quite good at that. So
no, it's a great show. Honestly, you guys check it out.
We've already done one, mate. So give it a rest. Don't patronise us, mate. Yeah, all right. No, so anyway. I just want to say, on the manager, I said it on the happy hour yesterday. I'm neither Ollie in, Ollie out. I'm just manager in all the time. And I don't like to see managers lose their job. That's probably a sentimental side of me that I need to ditch. I don't like the idea, especially the way United do it. I hated the way that they sacked Van Gaal. That was all wrong. Obviously David Moyes, the way that was done as well. It was almost like something else was lined up, or people knew before he knew. We don't do that very well at United. We don't do getting rid of managers very well. So I think
it's all behind the back. It's all snaky. That's where Woodward operates. We saw with Louis van Gaal. He knew he was losing his job 5 months before. Speaking to people like Rob Blanchett, they've been speaking to Pochettino for months, and that's the way he operates. And as Rob said earlier, you know, he might wake up one day, could be tomorrow, and Ollie's gone, and that's the problem as well. He's an immoral person, and that's the way he operates, and that's what makes me sad.
Yeah, but you know, but then looking back, you know, some of the comments about that midfield there, I said to you after the Arsenal game, I said in the group chat, I just don't like it at the moment. It seems like every time we want to be like attacking or be adventurous, we put a certain midfield out, but then we expose the defence. We just can't seem to get a right balance. And that does worry me a little bit with a new manager coming in, because it's like he's got these players to work with as well. And I'd be honest with you, right now, I'm not sure that these are the easiest players to work with either. I don't think you're guaranteed that new manager bounce if one comes.
See,
in.
I disagree with that completely.
Yeah,
it's not a bad squad.
I'm not.
They're not players that they're not. I don't think they're bad players. And this is the thing. The excuse that gets made by people is that, oh, the players are this, players are that. I think a manager would look at that and he's got such an array of talent and he wants to work with it. Ollie hasn't found a way to get them to working together. He did it last season. He hasn't done it yet.
I think he's bought the best out of players individually, but I don't think he's bought the best out of the players as a team. And I think someone else would have to come in order to do that now. We were talking about Mimic's comment just very quickly. Mimic's comment about what's the final straw, and I firmly believe, as Haider also mentioned earlier, if he does not get a good result against Everton, which is going to be a very tough game, I think that'll be game over for him.
Can I just say though, Haider, I'm not saying that these players are poor players. I'm not saying that at all. I do think at the moment they're a bit confused in their mind as to what they need to do, you know, and that comes from obviously the way that they're being asked to play at the moment, formation. I don't know. So what I'm saying is that the next manager that comes in, obviously, he's got a bunch of players here to work with, but the key is going to be finding that balance in midfield. And you saying about Ollie's taking us from A to B, and now someone's got to take it from B to C. Well, what is C? What are you saying? Winning trophies or
winning trophies, being more consistent? Yeah, you have to having a pronounced style of play.
I think we need to think a bit more then about the next manager, mate, because the one that we're all talking about, for me, and I'm not saying Poch is a bad manager, but there's no track record there for me that he could take us from B to C.
But I think that was because of the club that he was at.
Yeah, you've got to look at the circumstances. It's such a throwaway comment. Look, I'm going to bring Pauly and Ciaran into this, Joe, because they're both
there was something that Mark said before that I have lots of thoughts on, but that's for another time, which is tomorrow on the United Happy Hour. But there's just...
Wait, Pauly, have you got a new show?
Yes, it's the United Happy Hour.
Shall I make a guest appearance?
With Jim and I, come get your comments in. What, you know, like we've been saying, there are legitimate questions, and one of my biggest questions right now is what is Ollie's plan B? What happens when he gets punched in the mouth? Because today his substitutions made no sense. You're chasing a goal, you brought on Timothy Fosu-Mensah, and you move McTominay to right back. Like, why not just, you know, Brandon Williams and keep him there, or why not just throw a roll of the dice and bring on Daniel James and be like, well, you know, like we just need the attack here. But Fosu-Mensah, like, that makes no sense. And you look at the last few games where we've been praising Ollie for changing the game at certain points with his substitutions, but we also know that those were all pre-planned. Like against PSG, it was, I'm going to play like this for X amount of time, and then we're going to bring on Pogba and change the shape. And against Chelsea, like I criticized him because I said you didn't change your thing until you had a plan, but Chelsea didn't play the way you thought that they were going to play, and you never changed your plan. Like you should have taken your defense, one of McTominay or Fred off earlier, and you didn't. And then against Arsenal, like every change was like for like. Like how are you expecting that to change? And last year I kind of throw out because, you know, most of the season, Pereira sucks. Well, I could bring on Lingard. Like, you know, all right, like he just didn't have options. But then you go back to when he first came in, and you look at that game against PSG, where Lingard and Martial got first half injuries, and he's forced to bring on Mata and Alexis, and neither one of them have the pace to press the way that Martial, Rashford, Lingard would press. And there was no change there. It was, all right, guys, just do your best. And like PSG were like, they pushed the ball out wide onto the left, and like they'd look at Mata like coming to close them down and they'd laugh. They'd be like, oh, I still have all the time in the world. And it was so easy for them to break the press because Mata and Alexis don't have the pace to do it. And there was no accommodating of that. Now I understand, you can't expect two of your players to get hurt in the first half, but like the fact that at halftime, there was nothing like you play out the first half like that, fine. And you go into halftime down 2-0. That sucks.
Bring it back to Ollie. Bring it back to Ollie's lack of plan B because I want to hear
right.
Your thoughts
It's all right. You go 2-0 down at halftime. That sucks. But like at halftime, you got to say like, well, this isn't working because these two players can't play like that. How do we make the best of it? And he never did in that game. And United were kind of lucky to get out of that one 2-0. So you keep going back like, is every time he's changed a game, it seems that was pre-planned. And what is the plan B? Like what happens when he gets punched in the mouth? And it doesn't seem, we criticize this team all the time that when they fall 1-0 down, they just seem to lose it. But that could be coming from the manager. If the manager doesn't know what to do, that's going to trickle down to the players.
And the in-game management, Pauly, is something I've always criticized him for.
Right. Yeah. Like I've defended him for everything, but it's like, these are the things and you're a young manager. These are the things that need to be worked on. And this is where, there are plenty of places where people have said, I don't see improvement. And I'm like, the improvement's there, but this is an area where I have not seen improvement. And when is that going to happen?
Last season,
come on.
He had an excuse. I think last season he had an excuse because you look round and that bench was not good enough. That bench
exactly.
But actually, when he looks around this season, there's no hiding place anymore now because he has got options there. I mean, there must be at least 3 or 4 games this season, probably the last 3 or 4, where I've looked at our bench and thought that is really strong. I can't remember seeing a United bench that strong, to be fair. And I think that is where, I've said before, I think that's where Ollie lacks. I think he struggles to find the right combinations, and that includes when people come off the bench. Is he thinking about who's this player going to be combining with? Because I mean, even today you brought Cavani on for the last half an hour. When you bring Cavani on,
I didn't notice he was playing.
You need to have a good crosser of the ball. You need to be getting that ball wide, and you need to be delivering quality into the box. So have you got those players on the pitch there to do that? And, you could argue we haven't got many great crossers in the team anyway, but if you haven't got a good crosser in the team, you're probably wasting your time putting Cavani on the pitch because that's what he's going to need in this, if he's going to score goals for us.
Yeah, the problem I think there is you could probably count on one hand from when Cavani came on the amount of crosses that were actually put into the box. And it's a big issue because he felt you could see he was very isolated there. Back to kind of one of the comments that came up earlier on kind of Mimic, where he said, when do we kind of look at for when there's a change to be made? The game that I kind of circle, and I've said it before, I don't think he gets fired in 2020. I think you're probably looking at the new year. And it's very interesting that our game against Liverpool is in January. That's the one that I circle because if we continue playing the way we do, they'll be able to rip us apart. And any manager, and we've seen it before with Jose, we've seen it plenty of times. You saw it even with Moyes as well.
If we keep playing like that until January, I'm going to be an emotional wreck.
Yeah, we all will. But what I'm saying,
I've seen that happen. Like we're probably going to win against Everton because we always play well when Ollie's back is against the wall.
Yeah. Today's back. It needs to be firmly against the wall, then, doesn't it?
Yeah, well,
today his back was against the wall because it's the champions. Like in the grand, this is weird. Is in the grand scheme of things, this isn't a big loss because when you looked at the group, if I told you 6 points after 3 games, you'd be like, yeah, okay, that's fine. Like I'll take that. I also think that this is the game that might knock us out of the Champions League because we've said it's the group of death, and the team that drops points to Istanbul is going to be the team that comes up 1 point short. So in the grand scheme of things, like 2 wins, 1 loss, not a big deal, but also this could have been the loss that kills you.
Yeah, but it comes back to the whole thing that I've mentioned before in the Premier League. It's not the fact that with the points difference, because I've seen plenty of teams, look, it might not have been in 15th, but there was good 3, 4, 5 weeks at the start of a season where Ferguson teams couldn't even score a goal. I remember the year that Tevez came in. I don't think we scored for the first 4 games, and it was terrible. And you can bring it back. It's the actual performances. Yeah, it's the actual performances that are actually more worrying than anything else, and that's not getting better. Even if results are okay.
That's why I don't agree with Umka's comment. It's so like, okay, well, looking at it, saying, okay, well, we're only 4 points. It's not. You got to use the eye test. It's the eye test.
It's context.
Yeah, and context as well. You got to look at it. We're not playing well. We played well twice.
They also look like a team that has never gotten a chance to really play a run of games together. And to be fair, they haven't. Like, no preseason. In the first month, when we were saying no preseason, the team, Matic was all out of sorts. Pogba was out of sorts. This month, Martial's been suspended for 3 games. Now Van de Beek and Matic have never played as a pair. So,
Pauly, you'd expect now.
You have to earn to play games.
I am. Yeah, Ciaran's exactly right. Like, you have to earn being able to use that excuse, and they haven't earned that excuse. Is it true? Yes, but like, they haven't earned being able to use that excuse.
Yeah, if Solskjaer, like, look at it, the same players play post lockdown for one reason, because they earned the manager's trust. The reason why he keeps chopping and changing right now, obviously we have 2 games a week, but even beforehand we saw it, and the reason is because he doesn't trust the players that are playing because of what happened against Spurs. And the problem is that's going to continue until defensively they can actually shore up, because the problem is, if we don't have balance, what he's going to have to do, he's going to have to continue what he did with Fred and McTominay. And because when he doesn't do that, our defense looks so open. There's so much space between the midfield and the defense that literally every single time an opponent attacks, it looks like they can score. This wasn't just a Spurs game. Happened the exact same thing against Brighton. We are lucky to win that game. And really, the only game that's been pretty straightforward, look, even the Leipzig game to a certain extent, that was the last 15 minutes. The Newcastle game was the only one, and that's because Newcastle were terrible. So we have a big issue that if the performance level doesn't increase, it's only a matter of time before players are going to tune out the manager, and when that happens, that's when the issues are really going to come into play. What I will say quickly
is that when we say the defense is terrible, I still maintain personnel-wise, they're not as bad.
Their performances are terrible.
Yeah,
it's not that they're terrible players.
No, I agree with you. That's what I'm trying to say, that when people say, oh, the defense isn't good, I'm not saying people say that. I don't think that's the case at all. I really think that these are good players. I keep on saying this, but they are this minimum third, minimum. And this season's an anomaly for me. Probably, like, even if other teams drop points, we won't win the league. But what I'm saying is, it's a good squad. A manager would look at this squad and think, okay, if they went 3 at the back, you can have 2 out of the 4 would be Martial, Rashford, Greenwood, with the best young finisher in the world, and Cavani. Like, you've got firepower, but we're not creating anything, as Pauly said, and we're not scoring goals, and we can't keep a clean sheet to save our lives. So when all of these things aren't working, we look like a different team going forward and a different team in defense, like 2 different teams. We look so bad at the back, and you cannot build anything if you don't have a good defense. Dave's picked up his performances, but looking at that defense, now he's got a serious problem with Maguire, because Maguire's head isn't in it. And this is where Ollie needs to make the big decision. Lindelof's been playing well. Maybe you need to pair Lindelof with Axel. I don't like the way he's handled Axel. He played him 1 game and then didn't play him for 3 games. He's been sitting on the bench with splinters in his arse, and like, he's thinking, what am I going to do? Then he takes him off today.
That's also don't get too high after the games. He played fantastic against PSG, and everybody's, oh, he's got to be first choice, but it's 1 game, and he wasn't so good tonight. Now, that's not to say, oh, he's not, players have.
He was the only one defending.
Yeah, but sometimes that sort of relation will give you.
Like, it's more of also, like, as soon as that PSG game happened, Maguire and Lindelof played fantastic with each other.
Yeah, but Pauly. No, I agree with you. But do you not think that? I understand not straight after. So he played PSG. He's been out for nearly since December, 2 months or so. He should have played at least once
against Arsenal
in the last 3 games. Yeah, and then you bring him in. You got to think about it.
And I don't get why he was scapegoated. He was essentially scapegoated tonight, and I don't understand why.
Ollie's a brilliant manager. I've always said that. Yeah, it'd say the yellow card as well. But what I mean is that at the end of the day, like, that should have been managed better. And now he's out of the team. And we praised Ollie. I praised Ollie so much last year for the way he handled Greenwood and the way he's fantastic at doing that. I feel like it's been more difficult this year, and I don't know why. That's the thing. He doesn't look like himself at the moment. He looks like a man who's under pressure. We know that when you're under pressure, you tinker. He's tinkering all the time because he needs to get it right.
That was my biggest takeaway from this game.
That's what's worrying me.
Seems like a play. Like what I tweeted today about the team and the fans and everything that you and Ciaran were killing me about was, I didn't mean like Solskjaer's going on social media and being like, what do the fans want? That's what I'm going to give them. It's, we've all been screaming, where's Van de Beek? Like, why is Van de Beek not playing over Pogba? And, you know, maybe we've seen like Solskjaer sees him as a number 10. And maybe he said, you know, this is probably the game where I could try something new, maybe drop him deeper. And, you know, we've all been saying, where's Axel Tuanzebe? Like we said, where's Eric Bailly at the first month of the season? He puts them in against Spurs and it's a disaster. It just seemed like, and when I did think like usually when a coach like gives the lineup that the fans, you know, when the fans are all begging for a certain 11 and the coach finally gives it to them, that's usually a bad sign because it usually means the coach is out of ideas and he's going to be like, fine, I'm going to throw this team out there, but it's not going to work because there's a reason that I haven't been playing this team, and that's bad for the coach. Or if it does work, then it's like, well, why haven't you been doing this? But usually it's the former that happens. And then his substitutions, like I can't even harp on that enough. Like they made no sense. And at the end of the day, it just looked like he's a guy who's out of ideas.
Pogba's not walking really.
Pogba's a concern for me at the moment because I look at him and he looks a bit lost on the pitch, to be fair. I don't think he really knows what we want from him, to be honest. And that's what concerns me. I mean,
I don't think we know.
No, exactly. I think we, you know, we're in a situation. I don't want him doing what he did against Arsenal.
I'll tell you who does.
Anyone can give the penalty away, but I don't want Pogba tracking back and having to make tackles in the opposition penalty box because that is not his game anyway. So he shouldn't. I don't want him there. But then, you know, equally when he goes forward at the moment, I'm not seeing him being decisive enough or creative enough in that final third to make a difference there either. I don't know what's going on. It's a real problem for
Joe. No one is. Bruno's playing terribly. He lost the ball 34 times.
Yeah,
34. No. I want him to look forward, but 34 times.
He's been bad.
He's been bad. I think the manager's asking Bruno to play a bit deeper.
I'll tell you who does know how to play Pogba. Pochettino.
How do you know that?
I feel like Mark's
what's your evidence on that, Mark? Really?
Everybody knows that Pochettino is secretly the guy calling the shots for France. Okay, Joe.
All right.
Okay, guys, quickly because we've got to wrap up in a sec. There's one last question. I'm going to come around to you. Just tell me when you think it's going to happen. I know it's not a nice thing to say, but I want to. Ahsoka's got a question here. Quick question for y'all. What point does Oli get sacked? Okay, I'm going to start. I honestly think if he loses against Everton, I think he goes. I don't want it to be the case, but I'm not going to be emotionally attached to a manager. I'm just not going to do that anymore. My emotional attachment to a manager ended the day that Sir Alex left. I have not been emotionally attached to any other manager because that was the only manager for me who gave me the best, you know, however long I've been on this earth, just the best ever memories. I'm not emotionally attached. I want to see United do well. We're not seeing that enough at the moment. Ollie's done great off the pitch, but on the pitch, we're not picking up the results. We're not playing well either. That's the worst thing. If we were playing like good football and you could see a plan, I understand, but we're not doing that at the moment. So for me, I think if he loses against Everton, he will get sacked. But you don't know with Woodward, it could be tomorrow. It's just a horrible situation. Pauly, I'm going to go to you. What are your thoughts?
Everything that I was saying about like the time and the players on the pitch, etc. If this was a normal season and we were sitting here in the second month, then it would be the end of September, and in which case I'd give him October. The timing against Everton just makes sense because it's the last time you're going to get a week or so before a game. But like also Solskjaer's been great when he has a week off. He's been great coming out of international breaks and any break. But yeah, like that's the time that makes the most sense. Otherwise, when are you going to do it? You're going to sack him on Monday, but like of any other week, you sack him on Monday, you're going to have a match on Wednesday and then a match on Saturday. You sack him on Thursday, you have a match on Saturday. So, you know, I don't know. Like, what are you going to do? Sack him right now and then say like, well, Mick Phelan's going to be in charge against Everton? Like, that's even worse.
Sorry, boys. I was on mute there, and also I was just thinking Mickey Phelan in charge. It just that gave me shivers, mate, and not in a good way. All right, Mark, let's hear your thoughts. And to all the listeners, just chuck your comments in there as well. We'll put them up. What you think? Like, it's not a nice situation. I don't want to be this negative or whatever, but you just have to look at the facts in the situation right now, and it's not looking good. Drinkwater says that's such a cool name. Are you trying to call yourself Danny Drinkwater, or are you saying actually drink your water?
He's a Danny fan, isn't he?
He's a Danny, yeah.
Drink water so that you're hydrated, so that you can drink booze during the United Happy Hour tomorrow night.
Yeah.
Shameless. So Drinkwater says no, sack him now so you can bring Poch in. I think a lot of the fan base is thinking that right now. Mark, what are your thoughts, mate?
Yeah, I don't disagree with you, really, Haider. I think Everton. I think that's going to be his pivotal game, and if he doesn't win that, I think it will be GG for him. And again, I'm contradicted myself. I would never have said, I would have never jumped on the bandwagon with Poch. But to be honest with you, I just want to see a bit of change and a bit of consistency. So if he does go, as much as I love him, I'm not going to be too disheartened, and I think maybe a bit of change might bring something back and get us running.
And he's been, and Ollie's has been a success. Whether he leaves tomorrow, whether it's and he's still a legend, and he doesn't lose that as well. Go on, Joe.
Yeah.
On me, is it? Yeah. Look, I'm like you, mate. I think if he doesn't beat Everton, I think he's in trouble again. Like Pauly said, the timing of it with an international break coming up, it makes sense for me. I think the only thing I'll say, Haider, and we can debate this on another show. Probably we will have to soon enough because it's probably coming. But I just think they need to think a bit more about the next man. Obviously, I know everyone's pointing towards Poch, and I know we have different thoughts on this, but you talk about going from B to C. I need to see a bit more evidence on that way. Although I will say this, if Poch does come in, I will have some sort of quiet optimism because I've said before, I do think he's the man that Ed Woodward wanted for some time, to be fair. And hopefully, if that's the case, then we might see a different strategy, off the pitch in terms of being backed and financially, maybe. If you get a manager that you really want, will they back him a bit more? So next summer, January, if Poch is in before then, it might be interesting to see what we do from a recruitment point of view as well.
Yeah, it's a good point here as well. Nitin saying we can always isolate Ollie as a player and respect him. He will always be a legend. Absolutely well said, mate. And that's what I wanted to say always.
Manchester United, Haider, don't we? Going back to what you said about the manager, you can't get attached to managers' players.
No, Man United.
If you want to support Cristiano Ronaldo, then that's fine. You go and support Real Madrid when he goes there, and now Juventus.
Unfortunately, a legendary status can't carry you through.
It shouldn't do. Yeah, go on, Ciaran. Give the last word before we wrap up. It's been a fantastic show. It's been really raw, a lot of raw emotion, but it's been really well. No one's argued, which I've loved, and no one's been reactionary. It's been brilliant. So thank you guys. But go on, Ciaran. Last word.
Yeah, I think it's a tough one. I don't share the same belief that some of you guys do that he will get fired after Everton. I don't think United want to have that luck that you've really only begun a season and you've already fired a manager that's still well in the Champions League group. Personally, I think it'll be one or two things. When they don't believe that they can get through in the Champions League, like you saw with Mourinho, they didn't believe that he could beat PSG. Or if the results improve when it's mathematically impossible for United to qualify for the Champions League.
That might be December, mate, if the way we're going, if I'm being honest with you.
Okay, but realistically, it's not going to be December because there is going to be a lot of inconsistencies.
The rest of the league to win, and they're not doing that.
Yeah. So, you need to get into the top four. That's what I think. I've always said that if he gets fired, I don't think he's getting fired before December. I just don't think it's going to work that way. I think if he gets fired, it's very obvious who the manager will be coming in. It wouldn't shock me if there's a deal in place already for Poch, and it's literally just a waiting game. Like we said before, managers' average lifespan are 3 years?
No. It's under 12 months, mate.
Under 12. Okay, before
you're talking about in general.
You can't make a move with the structure of this club. That's the problem.
Yeah. But that's the issue. So I don't think it's going to be as soon as the Everton game. I think that's a little bit too harsh. We haven't played well, but I don't think the club are going to make a decision that quickly in a season because it makes Ed Woodward look bad, and he won't want that. He'll want to try and pick a time that he can kind of get out. I know the international break kind of helps that, but I think he'll want to have it at a time where he can spin it to something
I think the tide is turning, mate. If we lose against Everton,
I really want to believe you there. The one problem is that Ed Woodward already looks terrible. And remember that briefing over the summer that like they basically put out that briefing that basically said Sancho's almost a done deal. It's like basically only the agent's fees or something. And they basically said, if it doesn't happen, like egg on our face. But from our end, it's all done. And we were like, there's no way that the club would put out this briefing if they weren't going to get the deal done. And look what happened.
Yeah,
well,
absolutely. Guys, we've got to wrap up. Thank you very much for joining me today. Pauly, Marc, Joe, and Ciaran. It's been fantastic. I've really enjoyed it. And thank you to all the fantastic listeners. Some really great comments. Thank you very much. Make sure you check out United Happy Hour, as Pauly and Ciaran Pauly and Joe, haven't mentioned once, which is quite surprising during the episode. Look, guys, it's a real shame. We just got to be objective about things. We can all be emotional. It's not easy. I'm at the stage now where it's just apathy now. I just want to see the old United back, and we haven't seen it for 7 years. But look, thank you very much for joining us, and we will see you next week, probably for another Red Devils talk. We might change it up a bit because it's international breaks. We might do something a bit fun, maybe pick our greatest ever United side or something fun like that. So we'll chuck in the comments and we will do that. Yeah. All right, guys, take care, and we'll see you next time.